I got this old magazine. I got it from it's from the summer of 1988. It's really cool looking. Now look, I wrote a bunch of junk on there, but look how cool the fucking mirror shit fucks with me. Damn light. Yeah, there we go. Parabola, the magazine of myth and tradition. Summer of 1988. And this issue is called Repetition and Renewal. I must have grabbed it because Gertrude Stein is in here and Joseph Campbell is in here. This is one from my friend's house. No, I asked her. She's old. There's tons of stuff. Pretty. I guess I'm just going to start from the beginning. Repetition and renewal. Where is this printed? Where is this from? The cover art was God of the Rainbow, Servant of Thunder, a bas relief from the palace of King Gezo in the Musée de Léon, I forget how to say that, in Paris. Thing. Ooh. Wow. With me, the Rainbow Serpent, Servant of Thunder. It's by the Quarterly Society for the Study of Myth and Tradition, a non-profit organization. Their office address was New York, New York. I wonder if they're still around. I don't know. Volume 8, number 2, May 1988. Okay. I guess I'll start with the editor's thing. I like editors. They work really hard. The book of Genesis tells us that the Lord, accepting the sacrifice Noah offered after the flood, whatever that was, I can't keep track of all the sacrifices. Accepting the sacrifice Noah offered after the flood, the Lord promised, "While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease." While the earth remaineth, that's like a nothing statement. Yeah, while the earth is still here, it'll be here. Pretty much. We are born to a cyclical world, to the repetition of change. We recognize this as a law of creation. Fuck that. And we accept quite willingly the recurrent patterns of nature, even making up new patterns for ourselves and pursuing those made long ago by others. Our social customs, the way we eat and dress, conduct our business, and our religious practices all repeat the patterns we have invented or inherited. Why do we do this? We feel, as Peter Brooks says, that repetition is like a force, which can have either positive or negative results. We do the same things over and over again. We say the same words and go through the same motions. When does this militate for renewal, and when does this militate for renewal and when for slow death? Is it a step forward? Even our walking is a series of repeated steps. Or does it work to erode the distance between levels and to go toward the leveling off of a sort of psychological entropy? Does the repetition of the fathomless words of the Lord's Prayer deepen our understanding, or does it rattle away into a patter which owes its name disgracefully to that very prayer, the Pater Noster? The late Mircea Eliade has suggested, as you will read in our lead article, that the law behind our adherence to patterns is, as it were, the law of our own evolution. There is a longing for a reality not wholly realized, a thirst for completed being, impelling the human creature to reach toward another world which the highest in him claims as home, a nostalgia for paradise, which makes him repeatedly strive to imitate whatever he knows or feels or has heard of the sacred. Myths and symbols, rites and ceremonies were for ancient man, and perhaps they reverberate in the ancient core common to all men, divine models or archetypes, or as Blake called them, authors, when he spoke of myths. The authors are in eternity. These are intimations of another, higher, larger world that our world can only imitate. Even the nature of this world we live in seems to imitate something, as if seeking symbols to express a truth greater than ours, repeating over and over an effort that strives toward a perfection which is never attained. Perhaps ancient man, being less in love than we are with mental forms and formulations, was more able to keep in touch with his own hunger for being, and so his search and its patterns remained alive. We are very little in touch with it, and even at our peril often deny its existence. So we have become expert at diverting its stirrings in us to exterior channels. We see repetition as necessary, not for imitation of the divine, but only for many things in our ordinary lives, for learning, for order and organization, for the mass production of things, as well as to preserve revered or useful relics of the past. But mostly, we find, repetition does not renew us. We yawn at our desks and daydream in our churches and our studios. We think of refreshment in terms of something new, different, a change. But the change, the new, is latent in the very forms that have become stale for us, because we know exactly, we think, what comes next and what to expect of the end result. Our error often is to see the patterns of our lives as things in themselves, which soon lose all their limited meaning and become closed circles. Then we are closed inside them with little space to move or air to breathe, and find ourselves in the stifling situations we know all too well in our daily lives and have so many words to describe. Repetitious means humdrum, monotonous, boring, deadly. But if we didn't delude ourselves that we knew all these situations contain and exactly, but if we didn't delude ourselves that we knew all that these situations contain and exactly what would happen next, if the question were not lost, if the opening to the unknown were kept in sight, for it is always there. In this same routine, there may be found a way of pursuing the expanding, ascending, endless spiral toward that other world which calls us because a part of us is already there. If the question is alive, repetition itself becomes change. And we experience what several of our contributors have pointed out. And the Buddha himself said that one never steps twice into the same stream. We come to what Harry Remde speaks of in his piece on craft as a boundary, something we can also hear in the music of Steve Reich. This, as Remde says, is renewal. And that is what Parabola is always seeking to understand and to inquire about. And as we have found that there cannot be renewal without repetition, we also find that there can be none without questions. So inevitably, questions is our next theme. This theme, I suppose, is the repetition and renewal. Next one's questions. I don't have that volume. In Parabola's own process of repetition and renewal, we are bidding a reluctant and, we hope, brief goodbye to Lorraine Kisley, for many years the editor of this magazine, and at the same time we welcome the return of Rob Baker, who was our editor some years ago. May the questions remain alive through all the repetitions and all the changes. And that was a focus forward by D.M. Dooling, whoever that was in May of 1988. Okay, I don't know how long the next article is. That is a little bit long. I think